Hello everybody and welcome to Parks Bros. It's Drew here, and me and my little brother Hunter got the chance to visit Legoland California for the first time in a couple years this past week, and I figured why not give a little tour of Miniland U.S.A. But now we're walking towards Miniland, and that means we're gonna run into a lot of famous people like Pavarotti right here, and then Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was a governor of California at one point, and then Albert Einstein, Salvador Dali, he's new. It used to actually just be presidents, I'm pretty sure, at least as I remember, but now it's just a bunch of famous people, which is actually kind of cool. Like there's Beethoven. We just passed by Queen Elizabeth II. Is that Winston? Yeah, it is. But yeah, it used to be just presidents, so like Abraham Lincoln, George Washington, and it went all the way down. But kind of interesting change for sure. But speaking of presidents and George Washington, we're coming around along Washington, D.C., which is looking fabulous. And in Miniland, there are a lot of little gags and little funny jokes. Here you can see Thomas Jefferson statue trying to leave his own memorial. Another cool thing about Miniland is that there are tons of vehicles that move on their own. You can see this bus right here. There's a boat over yonder. It's really cool to see all this. And also, after being in Washington, D.C. in person, I actually appreciate this a little bit more because it's pretty accurate to where everything is. And I mean, accuracy is pretty impressive for something made out of Lego, let's be real. Miniland also features everything from the big stuff like the Washington Monument and the Lincoln Memorial, even to the Georgetown Lock, which is really kind of cool to see kind of these more obscure landmarks being used in Miniland. So here's just one of the sides of the White House, and they actually do switch out the presidents, as you can see, with every cycle. So there's our president at the day, Donald Trump. But also it looks like maybe George Washington is doing a little spying on that second balcony. One other thing you can see through the streets of DC is the president's motorcade that actually comes around and has quite the crowd surrounding it, which is pretty cool to see. We've made our way to Capitol Hill, and you can see there's quite the marching band playing a little Stars and Stripes Forever, which is really cool. Now we've come up on a city that we know pretty well from our many quick weekend vacations, and that is Las Vegas. Here's the Luxor as well as the Excalibur hotels, and we'll get another look at some of these later. So if you want to see Johnny Thunder from Down Under, make sure you stop at the Excalibur. I kind of find that pretty hilarious. But here is the New York Hotel, and this is actually pretty famous, or should I say infamous, for its roller coaster. Big Apple coaster, or the roller coaster, or the New York coaster, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, it is actually not present on the model itself, sadly, so we can't trash it in person, even though we haven't been on it yet. So maybe we'll do that soon. And here we come up upon the Mirage, which has quite the swimming pool, as well as some dolphins and some elephants. I don't know if they actually have the elephants or dolphins anymore, but they were quite famous for the dolphin show back when this model was built. And here we came across one of the more famous for theming hotels, and then there's Treasure Island, at least before it was bought out. And you can actually see the show every once in a while between the fighting ships. Here's the Stratosphere featuring the power tower up top, and it actually does go. You can see that, the S&S drop tower that is famous for being up there. But yeah, you can see many rides up top the Stratosphere, but it is one of the tallest buildings in all of Miniland. And here's a look at some of the monorails that you could actually use, and as well as a wedding chapel that has about a wedding every 30 seconds, it seems. So you can see them all walking out pretty quickly. But here is the Venetian, famous for its theming to Venice in Italy, as well as the Blue Man Group. So here's just a look at the front of the Venetian, which is actually pretty accurate, I can tell you, after being in Venice. Not the most accurate, but pretty dang close, actually. As well as its Lego counterpart. It's pretty close in that way, too. Now, they do feature the mini Eiffel Tower from the Paris Hotel. It's also a restaurant on that first floor right there. Technically, if you're European, it's the first floor. But they do not actually have the hotel section itself, just to let you know that. But behind it is the Mgm Grand, which is showing Ka and David Copperfield still. So it's very cool to see that. And here's the front of the New York, which is looking fantastic with all of its signage, as well as a mini Brooklyn Bridge. And after looking at the MGM Grand line, for lack of a better word, we come across the Tropicana, one of the older resorts in all of Las Vegas. But this is actually one I can say I have stayed at. I spent one night here when I went to go see Piano Guys, I think. Or Two Cellos? One of the two. I don't know. But it was just remodeled, and it was really nice. And here's the front of the Excalibur with Merlin himself sitting up atop. And then the front of the Luxor with its famous Sphinx, as well as Obelisk, which is looking great. And you can see the ever-famous sign for the fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada, as well as some new UFOs, as well as a ton of aliens, which is kind of funny. So now we come across a place we've been twice, and that is New York, specifically Central Park, and you can see this statue of the man himself, Hans Christian Andersen, and you can actually see a picture of me posing with this statue in real life with my girlfriend Caitlin, so I'll put that in there. But here is also one of the more famous fountains at Central Park, as well as some ice skating, which is present during the winter season. So here's one of the concert venues, which actually we got to see a band play in our last visit, but there's a lot of stuff to see in Miniland, I will say that right now, as well as just Central Park in general. We've only seen maybe a tenth of it, and that's about it. And here is the actual Central Park Zoo, most famous probably for my generation from the movie Madagascar, believe it or not, which I find pretty hilarious.
Which is
but
weird because they don't have any lions.
Yeah, they don't have any lions or tigers or anything like that. But yeah, you can see quite the collection of animals down here. And here's the Guggenheim Museum, which is famous for its art, as well as tons of other buildings from the famous New York City skyline. Some with honestly some crazy looking architecture, but there is a ton to see in just the Miniland itself, and I mean even more in the real life New York, so including this little carousel and the Flatiron Building right there. The Chrysler Building is hidden in this skyline right here, as you can see, but it's looking fantastic. And if you actually can see, there is a little boat cruise that's going to come by, which we would probably end up taking in a couple hours to get some nice views of the park. If the boat actually comes by, you get a nice view of the New York City skyline from the boat cruise. But oh, there it is finally. So here's a place we've been twice now, and that is Grand Central Station, Grand Central Terminal, whatever you'd like to call it. But it does actually have the nice constellations on top that it is actually kind of famous for, but it's quite the recreation, I would say. There's even an art gallery up top, a tennis court, some places to wait down here, as well as even working trains down on bottom, which is very cool. And there's even some secrets where you might see someone doing their business. And here's the famous Rockefeller Center, which is actually where I believe NBC is pretty much headquartered, NBC Universal, and that's where Jimmy Fallon is taped, as well as SNL and the Seth Meyers show. And there's actually a Lego store down in one of these buildings here. But embedded in the skyline is also the Empire State Building right there, and we've actually been to the top of both of those buildings, Rockefeller on the left and Empire State Building on the right. So it's really cool to see these again, you know, maybe in a smaller form. But here is actually Times Square, at least a representation of it, with its interesting advertisements, including Dinky Donuts and the Lego Movie 4D. But as we come to the end of the New York City skyline, we have more of a solemn sight, and that is Ground Zero, the places where the Twin Towers once stood, and it's quite haunting to go. And I have the utmost respect for all of the first responders that showed up and tried their best to try and help as many people as possible. But right behind it is the One World Trade Center, which actually is very new to the Miniland. It was only added, I think, 2 years ago because it took forever to build and design in Lego. Now we come across a place I've actually never been, and I would love to go, but I don't know too much about it, and that is New Orleans, Louisiana. New Orleans, Orleans, I don't know, French. Yeah, but speaking of French, this is the French marketplace right here, and it's very cool to see that. As well as there's a baseball field right there. I really don't know the entire history of New Orleans besides, realistically, the famous battle where Andrew Jackson was a general. But I mean, that's really all I know. And then also Bourbon Street and Mardi Gras. I just know that I would love to visit one day, eventually. But it's got a lot of detail, as well as even a parade might be going around. As we walk this way, we might see it. But here you can even spot a jazz funeral, which is pretty custom to, New Orleans in specific, and it happens quite a lot. But it's more of a joyous take on a funeral. They're playing a lot of happy jazz. But there is the Mardi Gras float, as you can see in the background, as well as in the foreground. There's another, but it's being cut off. It's being cut off by this little tram, which is actually kind of cool. That's actually pretty new. I don't remember that being a thing last time. But you've even got a still walker right behind it. And, even more Mardi Gras festivities right there, which is really cool to see. I mean, it's really what the famous city is famous for. So, I can't blame it for having so much Mardi Gras influence in the Miniland itself, as well as a bunch of steamboats, which is really cool. And actually, this one's really freaking long in comparison to the ones I know about, and that's like the Mark Twain at Disneyland. So, this side of New Orleans, you can actually see some birds, but a lot of boats going around the Legoland Marina, which you can actually control these boats for, I believe, a small fee. I'm pretty sure, right, Hunter? Is it like $1 or something? $2 per play, which is actually a lot more expensive than it used to be. But so is everything nowadays. But here you can get a nice view of the Statue of Liberty, as well as the One World Trade Center, as well as, whoa, we just jumped across the entire country and found the Golden Gate Bridge. How about that? Now, we've actually had a couple of visits to San Francisco. I think we're on 4 now. So we do know the streets pretty well, but it's really cool to see it in Miniland again. And that's the Transamerica Pyramid right there, and then Coit Tower in the background, right in the center of the screen now. But it's really cool to see all this again. And of course, the Golden Gate Bridge is looking amazing as usual. So here is actually one of the newer additions to Miniland. I'm not entirely sure what this is, but it's really kind of cool. We've got some whales right here, which are quite common to the Southern California coastline, as well as Riki Tiki, which is a new restaurant right there, as well as a new Ferris wheel that is going ridiculously fast. I mean, look at how much those cars are swinging. Oh my gosh, it's crazy. But yeah, let's go check out what this actually is, because I'm not entirely sure. It does remind me a lot of Long Beach. So we haven't actually found any signs for specific placement, but it just seems to be Southern California in general, because this is definitely a Southern California pier line, as well as a Southern California beach. We do have a confirmation this is just all Southern California kind of clumped into one, which is really cool because we do have our own racing track. And I mean, tons of this stuff. It's just kind of cool to see this new addition. And I mean, we are famous for our amusement and theme parks, that is for sure, as you can see here. Oh, the Castle Catapult. I love this, actually. It's really cool to see all this as a brand new area. Oh, it's actually representing Legoland, which is funny because Legoland doesn't have any of these rides, but that's fine. They do not have mini golf either, but that's fine. Yeah, I wish they still had mini golf, but this is really, really cool to have Legoland, or just theme parks in general, represented over here. Oh, uh-oh, that's not good. But it's really cool to see all of this as a brand new addition to Miniland. And here's a place we know pretty well, and that's the Hollywood Bowl. I've seen a couple concerts here, and my dad actually played here one time as a percussionist, which is really cool. But just to the right is something else very famous in the Hollywood area, and that is the Mann's Chinese Theater right here.
Yes, as well as the Legowood side.
Yes, it is Legowood, not Hollywood here, so make sure you know that. And there's the Griffith Observatory, which we need to go back to. So now we've jumped back up north to San Francisco for a look at everything on this side. You can see, oh, look at that, even a truck saying Legoland Mainland, which is really cool. But San Francisco, looking like San Francisco. I mean, you can always say that. But here is the Vallencourt Fountain, which I've actually played in a couple times, but be careful of the water. It's not the best. It's like kind of sticky, I'm not gonna lie. But you can even see a rescue for a cat right here on the building right next door. But I love Miniland. It's probably my favorite part of this park, honestly. Just to see everything in miniature and in Lego. So it's a win-win. And here is an ever-famous miniature version of Pier 39, which is just on the east side of San Francisco. And I mean, you get a great view of Alcatraz, but there is no Alcatraz here, which is kind of a good thing. We don't have to worry about any convicts or ghosts or whatever you'd like to say. But like the Grand Carousel right here on Pier 39 is pretty accurate as well. It is a double-decker if you've never seen it in person. And here's one of my favorite spots, I would say, in the world, and that is just off to this side of the pier, looking at all the sea lions right on that corner balcony right there. And there's actually like a llama fur store right next to that, which is kind of cool. But yeah, got a lot of memories there. Now here's something quite new to Miniland Skyline, and that is the Ghirardelli Square, which is really cool to see. It's quite the staple for San Francisco. And I mean, it's about a mile or so away from Pier 39, so it is a little bit of a walk, but it's definitely a welcomed addition to Miniland. And now we're going to take another jump from San Francisco to the other side of the country, and this is the New England area of Miniland, which is very cool. This building is brand new. As you can see, it's still being built, so that's pretty cool to see all that construction going up. But here you can see a little quick view of the boat cruise right there, and as well as a lot more construction all over the town in New England, which is really cool to see. Actually, I take my New England comment back. It does say this is historic Ferndale. Where that is, I'm not entirely sure, I'm not gonna lie. But I'm pretty sure the New England area is actually all the way over there at the end of the boat cruise, which we will go on later. And oh, I see something that's quite big back there, but we'll get another view of that pretty soon. So now we've taken a little walk from San Francisco all the way to Naboo? What? Hey Hunter. Hey Hunter.
There's always a bigger fish.
Yes, there's always a bigger fish. No, Qui-Gon. Where's Obi-Wan? Qui-Gon, no, not again. So there is an entire Star Wars Miniland area. Pretty much one actual representation for each episode. Here's episode 1, as you can see, Phantom Menace. And that's just because we're on Naboo. I mean, you don't really get to do that at any other time in the series, so it's really cool. And you could also see the fight between the droids and the Gungans right here, which is pretty impressive, actually. And now we've made it over to episode 2, Attack of the Clones, where we are on Geonosis, looking at the arena right now, which is kind of cool to see. And then we'll move over to the battlefield itself, which is even more impressive, with tons of clone troopers, as well as droids and droidicas and everything. Actually, I don't see any droidicas. I see some super battle droids, but
Spider droids.
Yeah,
Dwarf spider droids.
Yeah, dwarf spider droids. But yeah, it's amazing to see all this. Oh, and Yoda's speaking. As you can see, Yoda is right there. So here's a look at episode 3, and that's Kashyyyk right here. A battle between the Wookiees and the droids, which is quite intense, I would say, later on. Honestly, one of the more intense battles on a planet that ever happened in the Star Wars universe. But it's quite insane to see. Hi, Hunter.
See Yoda in green.
And yes, you can see Yoda over.
And green.
And who?
Green.
Commander
Green.
Oh, Commander Green. Yes, you are right. Commander Green is right there. Now we've gone from Kashyyyk to Mustafar to see the dreaded fight between
How they have different color lightsabers.
between Master and Apprentice. Anakin and Obi-Wan fighting to the death, pretty much. And yes, it is weird that they do have different colored lightsabers. And now we've made ourselves get over to Tatooine to see. Oh yeah.
Bantha.
Oh yeah.
Blue milk.
Banthas are the best. Hashtag.
Blue milk.
Yes. Well, except for the milk isn't the best, but that's a different story. But here you can see C-3PO, Luke, Obi-Wan, or sorry, Ben technically, and R2-D2 on their speeder, as well as some not so friendly people. Yeah, just those people. But now we've made our way over to Mos Eisley Cantina, where we can actually hear the ever so famous Cantina song, which is really cool to see. But it really is reminding me of Galaxy's Edge right now, and I'm kind of getting sad, but just give it a second and it'll remind us even more. And here you have it, the Millennium Falcon made out of Lego. This is about 4 times bigger than the actual set that they sell. It's very, very impressive, if I do say so myself.
They did sell this.
If they sold it, it would be worth like at least a good $5,000 or so, is my guess. And you even got Han and Chewie in the cockpit. On the other side of the cantina, though, you can also spot a sandcrawler with some Ewoks. Wait, did I just say Ewoks?
Yes, you did.
With some Jawas, oh my gosh, as well as Luke's home. Now over to episode 5, where we see the rebels making a stand against the Empire, and the Empire strikes back. That's episode 5 on Hoth. So it's quite cool to see all this, especially the Tauntauns right there, as well as the X-Wing on the left. It's really cool, as well as you can see some strategy being made over here, as well as some medical attention potentially being given to Luke. But here's the trenches right here, as well as some of the turrets going against the big bad AT-ATs, as well as the AT-STs right here, and Luke grappling, going to kill one, as well as Luke being caught in the Wampa Cave, which is no good for him. Now back to episode 4, you can see this is the trench scene right here with Luke going to take out Death Star 1. And speaking of the trench, this is Death Star 1 in all of its glory, as you can see. But Luke right there trying to go through the trench, trying to take it all down. But right here you can see Ben Kenobi facing off against the Darth Vader, sadly ending in his own demise. And here's actually something from episode 6, which is the Emperor Palpatine himself being thrown down by Darth Vader after attacking Luke. But here's a better look at the Death Star from the front. And another spot is the garbage masher, the trash compactor for another way of saying it. And you can see that right here, which is quite deadly. Oh, I'm just going to press the button. And there's a lot of interactive moments, just letting you know. As you can hear. Oh man. But yeah, there's a lot of interactive moments all over Miniland. But that is pretty much it, except for one exhibit. Oh, we've missed 2? Wow, let's go to those. Now we've made it to the last episode in the original trilogy, episode 6. We've made it to Endor. And you can see that there is an AT-AT right here, as well as Darth Vader talking to one of his confidants. And the Rebel base right below this little, well, I shouldn't say little, but the radar dish, as well as an AT-ST that's been taken over by some of the Ewoks, which is really cool. And no, there's an Ewok on the right.
Yeah, but Chewbacca's...
Oh yeah, you're right. Chewie is in the cockpit. Oh man, I'm blind. Oh, there is an AT-ST over here. Oh, and it looks like it's interactive, Hunter. You want to try it out? You got a speeder over here. Let's hope he doesn't run into a branch or something. Yeah, probably not. But, oh, that's no good for him. But here's a look at where the Ewoks live and abide. Right over a soon-to-be smashed AT-ST. Now, here's probably the most impressive model. It's the newest one to Star Wars Miniland, and that is the finalizer right here. Part of Episode 7's exhibit on Jakku, which is really incredible to see all of this just for Episode 7. I don't know if they're adding to Episode 8. There's not really much space to do that, but we will just have to wait and see. This took, I think, another 2 years after Episode 7 came out to even open, so it does definitely take its time, especially that thing. That's got to be at least 10,000 pieces. It's incredible, but yeah, it's looking fantastic, and you can even see Poe running away from Kylo, and BB-8 is over there, as well as BB-8 is also with Rey over by this AT-AT that has fallen. But oh, it's really cool to see all of this detail in this Miniland, as well as this crashed Star Destroyer. Uh-oh, Kylo Ren's he's had a fight with some birds. So as we walk out, we can see some minifigure models made out of Lego that are quite big, actually, of a lot of the famous Star Wars characters. Some of them from Clone Wars, like Yoda, at least this version of Yoda, and Captain Rex, as well as some Boba Fett action.
Look, he's got a party hat. He's a real party animal. Yay!
See, that's what I'm talking about, Rodney. If I were not...
I'm sorry, it's a pelican. I'm not sure, it's those.
They got the goiter.
Don't worry, guys. Unlike Elsa, he can't let it go. 282,000 Lego bricks. Elizabeth Tower is made out of 55,000.
That was like a huge microphone.
Here, left side, we have the Taj Mahal, also known as the Taj Mahal. It's built in the 17th century and it took 22,000 people to build in just 20 years. Ours doesn't take that long to use that many people, but it is made out of 143,000 Lego bricks. The Eiffel Tower, it stands 17 feet tall and is made out of 117,000 Lego bricks. Here we go to the top to get a real Eiffel.
Come on, George. Don't you have a backbone? Honestly, you two. Those people are listening. Quit picking on George. Oh, come on, Lincoln. Where's your sense of humor?
It's been 7 years since you said something funny, Teddy. And it'll be 4 years until you do again.
It's made of 500,000 Lego bricks.
Do you see it? And Darth Vader, we all gotta get a picture with him, man.
And of course we have the Statue of Liberty. It stands 6 feet tall and is made out of 122,000 Lego bricks. And of course we have New York City. New York City is made out of 8 million Lego bricks. Welcome New York City, everybody, into the city that never sleeps. Lego bricks. Now I'm not right, but I'm also not wrong. Coming up to your left side again, we have our very own Lego giant. His name is Gulliver. He's getting into some trouble. I hope he's okay. And yes, he's missing one shoe.
So thanks so much for watching this tour of Miniland USA. We hope you enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe if you have not, though. We're going to have tons of stuff about theme parks coming out in the next couple months just for Southern California, as well as some other places like Northern California. But make sure to be on the lookout for that, and we hope you really enjoyed our tour of Miniland USA at Legoland California, and hopefully we'll see you next time. But until then, we'll see you on the next ride.